everyone, it's a beautiful day and I hope you are all having a great time at the comfort of your own home. This is Teacher Kevin Domingo once again, your kind of K. We can go serious. We can go funny. We can go real. We can go fancy. But every time I teach, I do it with sincerity. This is DepEd TV. Last time, we talked of ways to promote a healthy lifestyle by doing some exciting physical exercises. We also learned the importance of eating a well-balanced meal. We also made a commitment and pledge for each task we made. I hope that the pledge and commitment you've signed will seriously be followed. It will remind you that above all, you should have a healthy lifestyle.
Have you ever wondered where you got your looks? Like the shape of your face, eye color, hair, skin complexion, and even your height? Try to observe this picture. Who is the child's look-alike? Where did the child get the shape of his face, eyebrows, hairstyle, eyes, earlobes, and chin? Have you also wondered where these puppies got the color of their fur?
The question is, why do members of the family look similar? In humans, just like other organisms, they inherit their characteristics or traits from their parents, or to some extent, to their ancestors, which can be passed on to the next generation. We call it as heredity.
Heredity is defined as the characteristics or traits we get genetically from our parents and our relatives before them. It includes the following. These are the examples of observable characteristics: widow's peak, bent pinky, earlobe attachment, rolling of tongue, cleft chin, dimples, hairstyle, eye color. Before we've ever thought of those questions about heredity, it was first studied by an Austrian monk named Gregor Johann Mendel, where he used pure lines of peas and researched it for 8 long years. His discoveries led him to establish his principles of inheritance.
The work of Gregor Mendel. So there is a principle called segregation. Now, you already know that when Mendel conducted the experiment, he used pure line. When I say pure line, it's true breeding. So in terms of genotype, the parents are homozygous dominant, and then you cross that with homozygous recessive. So he crossed purple by white. The F1 is purple, right? And then when he proceeded getting the F2, he obtained 3 purple is to 1 white.
Oops! What is the meaning of F1? It means the first filial generation, or simply the first set of offspring produced by the parents.
Remember, in Mendel's experiment, these are the 4 purple flowers from the cross between the parental generation. Now, what is F2? It means second filial generation, or simply the result of a cross between 2 F1. Again, from the illustration, the F2 are the 3 purple flowers and 1 white flower.
In this lesson, we will also encounter words such as dominant, recessive, homozygous, heterozygous, phenotype, and genotype.
Dominant in genetics refers to the traits expressed in an individual, meaning to say, these features can be seen by our naked eyes. An example is when your mother's hair is curly and your father's hair is straight and you've got a curly hair, that means the dominant trait is your mother's curly hair. It is expressed by 2 capital or uppercase letters. Recessive refers to the unnoticeable feature in an individual. By looking back at the example, a while ago, the child got a curly hair from his mom. Now, the recessive trait there is the straight hair from his dad that did not show up. But even though the child did not express a straight hair from his dad, he still has it. It was just masked and can still be passed on to his children in the future. It is expressed in small or lowercase letters like small cc.
Don't get confused. The dominant letters will always be followed. Like if we have a dominant curly hair, we will use two uppercase letters CC, while the recessive straight hair will use lowercase cc.
The next term is homozygous. These are sets of two identical alleles called true breeding. Example is two dominant alleles, uppercase BB, or two recessive alleles, lowercase bb. A cell is said to be homozygous when the identical alleles or the same allele of the gene is present in both chromosomes. Take a look at this pair of chromosomes where the alleles at the bottom location, represented by the colors red and yellow, is said to be homozygous. The cell or organism having this kind of identical alleles are called homozygote. How about the term heterozygous? It is a combination of one dominant and one recessive allele called hybrids. Example, one dominant allele B and one recessive allele B. In a diploid organism, just like humans, we are the product of the cells from our father and mother, who are both different individuals. It is said to be heterozygous because both of them shared particular chromosomes in us. Take a look at this picture. Notice that in each chromosome, the gene location found at the bottom has different colors represented by red and yellow. The same thing with the other chromosome. They are not identical. They are different. It is an example of heterozygous. And we, as product of this, is called a heterozygote organism. Again, when we say homozygous, it simply means the same or identical alleles, a pair of uppercase letters or a pair of lowercase letters, while heterozygous simply means the combination or hybrid, one uppercase letter paired with one lowercase letter.
Let us differentiate phenotype from genotype. Phenotype means the physical characteristic or trait of an individual, visible to the eyes. An example is height, while the genotype is the genetic makeup of the chromosome itself. To further understand the terms, try to observe the diagram.
For the phenotype, we have 3 purple flowers is to 1 white flower, while in the genotype, we have 1 homozygous purple flower, 2 heterozygous purple flower, and 1 homozygous white flower. The phenotype and genotype can be expressed in ratio, called phenotypic ratio and genotypic ratio. Again, in the diagram, we have a phenotypic ratio of 3 purple is to 1 white flower, while in the genotypic ratio, we have 1 homozygous dominant is to 2 heterozygous dominant is to 1 homozygous recessive. Before we continue, let us review the basics of the Punnett square by identifying the step-by-step process. Again, Punnett square allows the prediction of the percentages of phenotypes in the offspring of a cross from known genotypes. It can also be used to determine a missing genotype based on the other genotypes involved in a cross. Let us use this sample problem. In Mendel's experiment, what was the resulting offspring when he crossed purebred tall pea plants and purebred dwarf pea plants? Is there any chance to produce dwarf pea plants from this cross? Step 1. Assign the symbol for each allele. The trait to be used here is the height of the plant represented by uppercase or capital letter T. Let uppercase T represent the tall, while the lowercase t represent the dwarf. Remember that the capital letter or the uppercase letter represents the dominant allele, while the small letter or lowercase represents the recessive allele. Step 2. Determine the genotypes of each parent. Two uppercase letters T and T represent the purebred tall, while the lowercase letters T and T represent the purebred white. Step 3. Determine the kind of gametes produced by the parent. In this step, we will apply Mendel's principle of segregation. This law states that paired unit factors or genes must segregate equally into gametes such that offspring have an equal likelihood of inheriting either factor. The two alleles from each parent will be segregated. Step 4. Time to use the Punnett square. In using the Punnett square, we need to follow 4 steps. First, write the genotypes of the first parent on top, and the genotypes of the second parent in the left side. Now that you have written the genotypes of each parent, the second thing to do is to make a Punnett square by drawing grids, where you are going to write the possible genotypes of the resulting offspring. Third, you will fill in each grid with 2 alleles, one from the parent along the top and one from the parent along the side. The letters in the middle show you all possible combinations of alleles that can happen when these gametes meet during fertilization. Fourth, you will determine the phenotype of each offspring. Remember to obey Mendel's principle of dominance. Fifth, you will identify the genotypic and phenotypic ratios. The genotypic ratios are: for both capital letters T is 0, for capital T and small t is 4, and for both lowercase t is also 0. Therefore, we have 100% heterozygous. For the phenotypic ratios, we have 4 tall and 0 dwarf. Therefore, we have 100% tall. Finally, step 6. Give specific answer to a given question from the problem. For the sample problem given, in Mendel's experiment, what was the resulting offspring when he crossed purebred tall pea plants and purebred dwarf pea plants? Is there any chance to produce dwarf pea plants from this cross? The answer based on the result of the Punnett square is: there is no chance to have dwarf pea plants from the cross because all offsprings are heterozygous. Again, let us review the steps. Step 1. Assign symbol for each allele. Step 2. Determine the genotypes of each parent. Step 3. Determine the kind of gametes produced by each parent. Step 4. Use the Punnett square. Step 5. Identify the genotypic and phenotypic ratios. And step 6. Give specific answer to a given question from the problem.
Now, it's time for you to test yourself.
Complete the Punnett squares by filling in with the necessary genotypes and pasting the pictures on the correct square showing the resulting offspring. You will also write the genotypic and phenotypic ratio of the cross. Cross a dominant round seed, capital RR, and a recessive wrinkled seed, small letter rr.
Time is up. Let us try to answer the given cross.
Cross a dominant round seed, capital RR, and a recessive wrinkled seed, small rr. Let us assign the letters above and at the side. Draw the 4 grids. Fill in each grid using the Punnett square. Now, we will identify the type of organism produced by the combination of each allele. Notice that in each grid, since we have uppercase R combined with lowercase r, will give us a heterozygote round. Based on the result of the cross, we have the genotypic ratio of 0 homozygous round is to 4 heterozygous rounds is to 0 homozygous wrinkled. And the phenotypic ratio is all round is to 0 wrinkled.
Let's try another one.
Cross a tall plant with uppercase T and lowercase t with a dwarf plant, both small t. Identify the genotypic and phenotypic ratio. Time is up! And here is the answer.
Okay, learners, did you get the right answers? Very good! If not, all you have to do is to practice it. Now, it's time for you to answer this activity. Read each statement carefully, then write the letter of your answer in a sheet of paper.
Question number 1. The idea that for any particular trait, the pair of alleles of each parent separate and only one allele from each parent passes to an offspring is Mendel's principle of A. Segregation, B. Dominance, C. Independent assortment, or D. None of the above. Phenotype refers to A. The dominant alleles, B. The recessive alleles, C. The physical appearance, D. The genetic code. Question number 3. Which is true about recessive alleles? A. It is the observable characteristics in an offspring. B. It is the non-observable characteristics in an offspring. C. It is the trait that will not be passed to the next generation. Or D. Neither. Question number 4. A hybrid organism is an example of A. Phenotype, B. Genotype, C. Homozygous individual, or D. Heterozygous individual. Question number 5. Which of the following is not true about Punnett square? A. It predicts the possible genotype of an individual. B. It was developed by Reginald Punnett. C. It is a graphical assumption of each trait of an individual. Or D. It determines the exact distribution of the genotypes and phenotypes. Pens up! Let us answer the questions. Question number 1. The idea that for any particular trait, the pair of alleles of each parent separate and only one allele from each parent passes to an offspring is Mendel's principle of A. Segregation. Question number 2. Phenotype refers to? The answer is C. The physical appearance. Question number 3. Which is true about recessive alleles? The answer is B. It is the non-observable characteristics in an offspring. Question number 4. A hybrid organism is an example of? The answer is letter D. Heterozygous individual. Question number 5. Which of the following is not true about Punnett square? The answer is letter D. It determines the exact distribution of the genotypes and phenotypes.
How many of you got all the correct answers? Very good! For those who did not get all the answers correctly, don't quit learning. See you again for another fun learning activity. This is Teacher Kevin Domingo, and this is DepEd TV.